Now then, it's Burnsy. Welcome to our regular Curiosity podcast, the CuriosityCast. Every episode, we take questions asked by members of the public in Hull and try to get them the best answers from the very best brains in the city of Hull. Not all questions are about Hull. They can be about whatever you want to discover, so make sure you send us your questions. Now, our guest this week is from the Hull-based theatre company Middlechild. I'm hoping you'll have heard of them. If you haven't, they're a fascinating company doing wonderful stuff. We'll find out about it. The current Middlechild project is, of course, their annual panto. We'll talk about that. Always a great favourite in Hull. Some shows are selling out already. And here to talk about it and all things Middlechild is Audience Development Manager Jamie Potter. Jamie, nice to see you. Welcome to the Curiosity Cast. Tell us about Middlechild. How long you been going?
Yeah, so we're a professional theatre company in Hull. We were founded in 2011 by a group of university graduates who all came from different places in the country, came to Hull Uni, did a drama and theatre producing course at the university there, finished and thought, you know what, let's stay around in Hull. We like this city, we love the people here. There's something really special about it, and it's a cheap place to live and to make great art. So they stuck around, set up a theatre company, and it's like 13 years ago now, still here. Alive and kicking.
It's a lovely story. And I like it, the fact that people have come here to be educated and then thought, well, we'll give something back, and we enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's really common, particularly I think in theatre and the arts, and like Hull University's theatre course is like really well known, and lots of graduates from the university have gone on to great things in the industry, and lots of people have done what Middlechild have done. They've come to the city, learnt their craft at the university, and then stuck around. And I think there's something really special about Hull as a place like that, where it draws people in who just make it a new home for themselves.
You've done all right then, keeping it going, because I can't imagine it's the most secure of professions. It isn't anyway, acting and theatre, and to actually run a theatre company and keep it going and keep your jobs, as it were.
Yeah, it is hard work. To have been going for 13 years, and especially for Middlechild, we're what's known as a national portfolio organisation with the Arts Council. So that means that we get annual funding, which is sort of secured for a few years at a time. So rather than having to scrabble about applying for money for, project by project, we've got that little bit of security, which we joined the portfolio in 2018, so really early relatively in our history as a company. So that's something that we're really proud of, and we've managed to weather like COVID and the cost of living and all that kind of thing. And it's not easy. There's definitely struggles still out there. We're not the only company to be facing those, but yeah, it's something that we're really proud of, and that we're here to keep doing what we're doing.
You should be proud of it. I'm going to ask this question that's coming from Mal in HU8, which is the Garden Village portion of Hull district, whatever, you know what I mean. Because for gig theatre, for those that don't know, what's gig theatre?
Yeah, so this has become kind of our thing in recent years. I guess for us, it's about taking the best elements of like live music, stand-up comedy, those kind of performing arts where there's that relationship between the performer on the stage and the audience. Panto is a really good touch point for theatre, and then combining that with the things that we love about theatre as an art. So like the storytelling, the acting performances, the stage design, all that kind of thing, and bringing those together. That for us came out of who we're trying to make theatre for in Hull. So we've always existed as a company trying to get people who don't really think theatre is for themselves, who don't feel welcome in theatre, maybe not really experienced much of it, to come and try it out and give it a go. And what we noticed in Hull is that while audiences may not be so into theatre, they are absolutely into live music. So Humber Street Sesh, for instance, like what's that, 32,000 people or something like that, turn out every summer to go and support not big bands who, not your Coldplays and all that kind of thing. These are bands who are their neighbours, their mates, the people that they work with, that they study with, all local acts, and they manage to pack out Humber Street at the Marina every summer. And around the year as well, like Sesh at Polar Bear, all the live music events, the Adelphi, world famous independent venue. People in Hull love live music, so we sort of saw that as a way into finding new audiences. So people who might not be used to theatre will be used to live music, comedy. So let's bring a bit of that familiarity to the theatre that we're making.
So it's paid off. This is producer Dave, by the way.
I'm all right in thinking as well that there's an element of, if something happens in the room, you make use of it. So it's not sticking, well, it is sticking to a script, obviously, but if something occurs, then you try and play that in as well. Is that a part of a gig theatre?
Yeah, exactly. So it's about that like live nature of it. So what we're not sort of doing is making theatre where you have to come and sit in a black room and stay quiet and focused and listen to all this like really literary, like meaty themes. I mean, there's a lot of big ideas, a lot of big issues that we tackle in our work. But yeah, we give like the performers and the audience the freedom to sort of bounce off each other. So like I said, panto is like a really good sort of reference point. Like we all know that you can boo the villain, you can cheer the goodie. There's that back and forth between people on stage. If something goes wrong, the cast just roll with it, and it adds to that idea that every night is different. And gig theatre is actually something that we're kind of not moving away from, but we're developing the sort of theatre we make, not necessarily sticking to gig theatre in terms of like live music, but certainly like that event element and like acknowledging the people who are in the room, in that space, in that evening, if that makes sense.
Oh, interactive.
Not quite.
Right. Oh, all right. Okay. Well, explain more. So the new concept, if we came to one of the shows.
Yeah, so a good example is the big show that we did earlier in the year, Baby He Loves You, which was set around a family wedding that goes horribly wrong. And there's all these like really deep, dark, like actually like really horrible relationships, things going on in the family. So rather than do that in like a traditional theatre space, we did it in a wedding marquee that we erected on stage at the Docking Hull. Mm-hmm. And we had the audience was sat at like cabaret tables in the round around the stage. So it's almost like they were at a wedding party or dinner, that kind of thing. So it became a bit more immersive. And one of the reasons we did that was because we wanted the audience to be able to look each other in the eye as they're watching these relationships unfold on stage. And it just makes it more of an event. We had people come in dressed in like their wedding suits and things like that. We had a bar in the marquee as well. So that was not like some of our older theatre, like all we ever wanted, that was like pure gig theatre, but it still had that live element. It had music in it. It was, the audience were very much a part of that show.
Right. And you'll be doing more of that in the future then?
Yeah, so the big show that we're going to be doing next year, which we haven't announced yet, but I can tell you a little bit about it.
Oh, go on then.
Yeah.
Go on then.
Yeah, next year's show is called Biting Point, which is written by Sid Segar, who is this really exciting new playwright who he's written about, it's essentially about anger and where it comes from, how people experience it and feel it, the pressures of society, and it revolves around this incident of road rage. So we're going to be performing it naturally on the top of a multi-story car park.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And we're also going to have, our audience will be wearing headphones. So there'll be two performers in the cast performing live, but there'll also be pre-recorded bits of dialogue and sound design that the audience will experience through the headphones. So the idea is that we can do it looking out on the city, which is like a big character, I guess, in this story, getting to know the world that causes people to feel this anger, but doing it in actually quite an intimate setting because of the headphones. So again, that's like, yeah, thinking about the experience that our audience have, what they bring to the show as much as what we give to them.
At a car park near you. We'll not play Guess the Car Park. I know Dave's dying to.
Well, I'm thinking of going and parking in one to get, they can't move me. It's free ticket, isn't it?
And there's always an angle.
It sounds like we're having gig theatre here, the noise that's coming from next door.
And there is
we should point out we've got some very noisy people in the room next door.
Library.
But don't let it disturb you.
It's all right. I don't think it's breaking through. I hope not. Anyway, in terms of what we were discussing then, Amy in HU11 in Bilton has got this question for you, Jamie. Who decides what your plays are about?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We are, I guess, what you might call like an artist-led company. So it is Middle Child and our artistic director, Paul Smith, who sort of leads on looking at the stories that mean something, that sort of the issues in the world that we want to sort of confront and ask big questions about and get our audience to think about, maybe to challenge people, their ideas, their concepts.
Do you start with that idea first and then sort of argue the toss between years to?
It's really flexible. So sometimes a writer might come to us and say, I've got this idea for a play. I'd love to do it. And we have a look at it. We maybe read something that they've written or talk to them about it. And we realize there's some like nugget of gold in there. And then we polish it, finesse it. And that's where it goes. Other times we might approach the writer first and say, we love you as a writer. What would you like to write about? Or would you like to write about this particular issue? Like, this is something we'd love to cover, and we think that you're an exceptional writer who'd be the best person to take that on and go from there.
So you never say, we've got a car park, what should we do with this? It never comes from the location, it's always from the idea.
It's always from the idea, yeah. And then we look for like a location or a setting, whatever it might be, that would fit their story and that will add something to it and bring something to it. But whatever we do, we're really careful to choose stories, plays that have something to say to people of Hull, and that means something to what's happening in the city at this moment in time. And we're particularly interested in telling like untold stories, so ideas, themes that maybe haven't really been touched upon in not just theatre, but maybe other performing arts, literature, poetry, whatever it might be, that is maybe not being covered in Hull or given much of a stage, if that makes sense.
Dave, you touched on, well, you basically nailed Dom in Orchard Park's question.
Oh, sorry, Dom.
No, it's all right. No, you're ahead of the game there. Do you look for a venue first or the story first? So we've answered that. I just wanted to acknowledge Dom for it's the quality of his question. If you're asking it and he's asking it, then we're on it.
Him in advance.
No, don't worry about it. No, that's fine. Adam, I'm not telling you off, by the way. I was just...
Do you want me to try and guess what the next question is?
No. Okay. Well, not for now. Adam, on Preston Road, on HU9. What's the difference between Middle Child and a theatre company like Hull Truck?
So I guess Hull Truck, what would you call like a regional theatre, not a term I particularly enjoy, because London's a region as well. Let's not like sort of centre places like that. But yeah, Hull Truck is a big theatre that's kind of responsible for like the broader region. It's a producing theatre. So what we mean by that is that it creates its own shows. It commissions writers, artists to make pieces of theatre. They might make those in-house with their creative team, or they might get a company like Middle Child in to do that. And they also have a remit to cover, not just theatre, but they'll have like live music, comedy, that kind of thing. They're a performing arts hub and a centre.
And they've got a venue, got their own venue,
and they have their own venue, yeah.
Does that work for you, being not having a venue? Does it give you more flexibility and an ability to be more creative? I don't know.
Yeah, it's I guess there's like pros and cons to each thing. So yeah, Middle Child is a company, but I guess we're what's called a touring company. So because we don't have a venue, we create work and then find venues to take it to. Even if they're just in Hull, like we're technically still touring that work because we don't have our own space. So yeah, that means that we can be a little bit more fleet of foot and do things a bit differently, like put work in a car park or in a wedding marquee on stage at the dock.
But it must create costs with every new production.
Yeah. So the show that we did this year, the wedding one, we had to essentially create our own theatre outdoors in May.
But you mentioned the cost. Does the fact that you don't have to heat a permanent building for 52 weeks a year and staff it and everything like that, does it work out financially?
So if I'm honest, like the finances is a little bit above my head, but that is like an issue that people who run buildings, like they have to consider that they have to be open all year round, every day. Well, not every day, but every week they've got to put work in that building. They've got to get people in there. They've got a whole team who have to run the building. Middle Child are quite a small team. There's only 6 of us in the core team. When we make a show, that team expands with freelancers. But yeah, year round there's only 6 of us. Whereas a building like Hull Truck or any other like theatre building of their size, they've got huge teams having to run the building, look after all of the tech and the production and all that kind of thing, running cafes or
which
hospitality.
Guess would have an effect on the shows they put on, because they must need to put enough bums on seats to pay that ongoing staff. Whereas to an extent, I know everybody needs money, but you haven't got those permanent set costs, so you can budget greater and lesser for each production, maybe, can you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why, like at this time of year for buildings, pantomimes or Christmas shows in general, like a huge part of their year, and what their year focuses around getting as many bums on seats as they can into those Christmas shows, because that's where they can make a bit of money that will hopefully subsidise the work that they do throughout the year. So that means that the buildings can take chances on those pieces of work that may be completely new, maybe don't quite have an audience yet, and maybe completely out there, totally left of field, and might only get a few people in, but artistically have like real merit and deserve to be given a stage.
We will turn to the Middle Child Theatre panto very shortly. This is the CuriosityCast. I'm Burnsy. Our guest today is the development manager, the audience development manager from Middle Child Theatre, who've done great stuff. I've seen them in Edinburgh, I've seen them in Hull, they've played music festivals like Latitude, they've been to London and all sorts of places. Jamie Potter is our guest. We mentioned the panto. It is Middle Child's Treasure Island, the Rock and Roll Hull panto. I get that. I understand that. There's a panto going on in Grimsby at the auditorium at the moment, which is Dick Whittington and the Pirates of the Caribbean. I've struggled with the concept of that and the mishmash of that. Tell us about Treasure Island, the Rock and Roll Hull panto, and where's it happening and when's it happening? I know it's going on now, but when this CuriosityCast goes out, there will still be an opportunity. When does it run to?
Yeah, so it runs at Social on Humber Street until the 29th of December. So this is something that we've done, I think, every year since we started as a company, actually. So I think this is our 13th annual panto now, which they originally started at Fruit, that great venue on Humber Street, which is now Social. Yeah. And I guess it's a very self-aware alternative kind of panto. We don't have celebrities or no Chuckle Brothers or EastEnders actors in our panto. It's all local performers, whole actors and musicians doing a really silly story in a warehouse. It is a warehouse essentially, on a very low budget, and it shouldn't work, but it does, and that's the magic of our show.
Well, the fact that people come back and have come back for 13 years and supported the panto. This sort of question from Jackie in HU5 in the Avenues leads into maybe discussing some aspects of the panto and maybe other things. Are all your plays aimed at youngsters?
Yeah, no. If I'm honest, the panto absolutely is. So the panto is like our annual show that is made for families, people of all ages, and we get huge numbers of young children coming in and enjoying it.
Yet you say that. What are the panto shows that sell out?
The ones that have sold out already, which I can't believe, at the time of recording, which is quite early, is our late night version. So these are for adults only. They're not I think people have maybe an idea that this is like really bawdy, blue, risque panto, which there's a little element of that, but in truth, it's actually exactly the same script as our family show, just a few more sort of rude jokes in there. But what it is, it's a space where adults can leave their kids at home, get a babysitter, go let their hair down for a night out at Christmas, like do something a bit different.
And shout at actors.
Which everybody loves doing. And, they can this is my favourite thing about panto, is that people of different ages, all their inhibitions go away and they're silly and they are shouting at actors on stage and booing people and singing along to songs and stuff like that, getting involved as an audience. Whether you're a little kid or a grandparent or somebody firmly in their middle age, everybody's on a level, just being silly and daft and having a really, really good time. And that's the same case with like our late night shows. Like, yeah, they are 18 plus, but it is just adults just mucking around like they're in nursery or something. It's
what
great.
I always liked about the panto, I used to take the kids every year. They've got a bit too cool now. They're teenagers and they don't want to be going to pantos, but they'll come around again, I'm sure they will. But what I loved about it every year was, and you'll take this in exactly the right way, is the complete lack of slickness. But in a glorious way. It feels under-rehearsed. It feels totally as if, not that they're making it up as they go along, but if they forget something, they don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And I don't, I'm sure you won't be offended by me saying that in any way. I'm sure it's part of
if he is, he'll be out the door.
But it adds to the night, because you want to see those moments that only happen that night. And that's what's great about it. The unrehearsed stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's what we were talking about earlier. Like, there's live moments, and the cast in panto are phenomenal performers who, like, they ride the edge of it throughout, and they'll take anything that comes their way. And like, we kind of have a saying, like, if anything goes wrong, it's a gift. Like, if something happens, like, use it and like think on the spot, improvise, make a virtue of it. the audience always lap it up.
I bet the cast love it. Do they?
Yeah.
Nervy, but a real adrenaline buzz.
Yeah, and again, it's like every show is different, and also things like, you know, in recent years we started using understudies. So if any cast member is ill, we'll have somebody go on stage and they'll read it like script in hand, and they've been in there in rehearsals, they know the show, but they don't know the lines and every single element. And when you tell audiences as they're coming through the door, like, oh, we have an understudy, they love it. Like, they probably pay for a ticket to see a show with an understudy because they know they're going to get something different.
My kids, the grandparents used to take them to the one at New Theatre, and then I used to take them to the middle child one. And they always preferred the middle child one. Nothing against the New Theatre one, which is fine. But this was kind of like you were Tiswas against Swap Shop. It was just
nice
chaos.
Analogy.
Chaos at the middle child one, and a bit too formal and no lead and tidy beard at New Theatre. So they always preferred the middle child one. I think that for kids, they want that anarchy, they want that madness, don't they?
Yeah. Anarchy is a really good way of putting it, and chaos, and it's like capturing lightning in a bottle, isn't it? Yeah.
So the panto is Treasure Island, the Rock and Roll Hull panto. It is at Social till the 29th of December. Presumably search Middle Child Theatre and you'll find out how to get tickets, or go to the Social website. You'll be there. It's the Rock and Roll Hull panto. So are these original rock and roll tracks that your musicians have created, or
no, they're
covers?
They're the popular ones. Covers basically.
To sing along.
Like rock and roll style. Yeah, a few, sort of focused on lyrics that are relevant to
Johnny
to the
Kidd
show.
and the Pirates. Go back to Johnny Kidd and the Pirates.
Which was on another Curiosity
It
Cast.
was, but Pirates, Treasure Island.
I've
Yeah.
got
You've got
this.
the link, sorry.
Is there any? I love Johnny Kidd and the Pirates.
We have some sea shanties in this one, and they've been popular lately as well, like particularly on TikTok, like with younger audiences. You got your ballad. Finish the first act before the interval on a big ballad. I won't reveal what it is this year, but it's a very familiar.
Dave and I would have sung along there. Yeah. No, maybe not for the right.
I'll say a Canadian singer who.
I know what it is.
A
Brian
disaster.
Adams. Sea Lion Dion.
Sea Lion Dion.
Yeah. It will be. It's Christmas, isn't it?
It'll be that front of the ship bit and all that going on. I'm there already.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All the cliches. That's what pantomimes are, aren't they? But subverted. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. And those cliches are, like, as people see in some of the videos we've done for Curiosity, like, that's part of why they work, because audiences can come along, they know what to expect, they know what the rules are, they know like the basic beats of the story, who the characters are, so there's not a lot of sort of thinking that you have to do, like, in a really positive way. Like, you can just come along, and it's really accessible for many people. Panto is their first experience of theatre, which is also why we do it, because it is like that accessible way into theatre.
It's a beautiful segue and a nice plug for us to check out the Curiosity website and all the videos there. And Middle Child have done some, and my lawyers are currently having a look at the fact that one of your cast suggested that I was older than Panto, and it started in the 1700s. So thank you very much. JB Potter is here. Serious question. This comes from my manor, James, in HU13 in Hessel. Can any theatre exist without public funding?
That's a big question, yeah.
Because we should say, your exec director, Paul, he wrote a fantastic blog about the really difficult nature of staging any kind of play or performance. And that got some really serious feedback and stuff, didn't it?
Yeah, so it's our artistic director and chief exec, Paul Smith. So when we were producing... we were in rehearsals actually for Baby He Loves You earlier in the year, and we got to like a week before opening, and the ticket sales just were not where we needed them to be. So the way that funding works with theatre is that Middle Child, we're a subsidised company. So if
from the Arts Council,
so we receive money principally from the Arts Council, also Hull City Council, other funders, if like on a case by case basis, and that pays for the tickets. Pays for us to produce a show and subsidises the tickets. So the price that people pay for a ticket doesn't actually cover the full cost of the show. In some cases, like even with Panto, actually, we still make a loss. Even if we sold out every single ticket for Panto, we'd still be losing money, which is unusual given what I said earlier about most theatres make profit from Panto. If we made a show like Baby He Loves You, the wedding show on the stage at the Dock, without any public funding, audiences would have to be paying like insane, silly prices for tickets. even with that funding, we can't get them as low as we'd like them to be. And, we're aware that people are short of money. Hull's not a city that's flush with cash.
No.
So even when we're making ticket prices, getting them as low as between £15 and £20, that's not actually that low for a lot of people. So yeah, we got a week away from opening and we just hadn't sold as many tickets as we needed to, because we still had a box office target. We needed to get income from tickets to supplement the funding from Arts Council and what have you. So Paul just was frank and honest and said, it's cost this much. This is what it would mean if we can't sell tickets. It might affect the program of work that we do the rest of the year. And I'd already written a blog as well about like the cost of the show and why we couldn't get tickets as low.
So who are you sending a message to?
Basically, so that was to our audience essentially, because I think people in theatre are very bad at being open and transparent and talking honestly about what it means to make theatre, which is something we're really keen to do as an organisation. We always like to talk openly about how we make decisions and what it's like making theatre. I remember we did a focus group with audiences a year ago, and we asked them to guess how much the previous year's production was, and they were way, way off. And when we told them the top line figure, like jaws were hitting the floor. I think people just don't understand.
Make our jaws hit the floor, Jamie.
So that was Modest, which was the show that we did at Hull Truck in 2023. I think off the top of my head, I can't remember the details, but it was roughly £90,000.
Right.
Which is a big old chunk of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're trying to communicate to audiences basically and say, look, we need people to buy tickets. We appreciate that they're not necessarily as accessible for some people, but if you can afford the tickets, like, please do. And to be fair, like, the response was incredible. And yeah, we sales rocketed after that.
So going back to the question, the kind of theatre you put on is very difficult to fund without some support. So what is winning at the minute? Is it all jukebox musicals and the big names? We had Nick Quantrill on the CuriosityCast a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying authors, they don't make any money from the books unless they're the big names. Then they make plenty of money. The rest of them, they still have to have second jobs. Is it a similar sort of thing? There's only like the big musicals and stuff making money, and everybody else needs the support.
It's maybe a little difficult for me to answer because I don't work in a venue, so it's sort of very different. Like the pressures that venues face, I was saying earlier, they have to like fill the spaces out, week after week. But there has been like a noticeable trend that people are maybe going for existing scripts and adaptations of work, so that because it's cheaper than commissioning somebody to write a new play. To use something that already exists, that saves you thousands straight off the bat before you've even started making the thing. Smaller shows, like with smaller cast sizes, so rather than paying, say, 10 performers, you can pay 5 or 6 or even fewer. That's a saving as well. So I guess there's like a pressure between what people making the work can afford financially in their like funding situation, but also what audiences are interested in. So like our panto this year, like the sales are flying, like they're doing the best they ever have done. And I think that's something around people want to have that experience every Christmas. And this is the same everywhere actually across the city, as far as I'm aware. Like Christmas shows are doing like brilliantly. I guess people, they might be cutting back here and there throughout the year, maybe not going to that gig or that play that they might do, in July, September, whatever. But when it comes to Christmas, they want that family night out because it's Christmas, because it's their tradition. Like musicals are big, huge, like Wicked. That's because it's the movie version that everybody's talking about, Wicked. But it's not like a musical isn't a show way to make money, if that makes sense. Like some musicals don't work and they do shut. So yeah, I guess there's that the balance between like audience interest and taste and what will fly with an audience versus what the theatre producers can afford to make.
So it's a tightrope for everybody then, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And that does come from, Paul's blog acknowledges this, as did mine, that public funding for the arts has gone down drastically over the past sort of decade or so. And that does make it difficult for people.
And I think that's where the curtains will have to come down on the latest edition of the CuriosityCast. Our thanks to Jamie Potter of Middle Child Theatre. Go and check out the work, check out the website. Take your kids and your granny to see Treasure Island, the rock and roll Hull Panto at Social down Humber Street. It'll be a wonderful experience. This has been the CuriosityCast. Don't forget, you can ask questions and seek answers on the Curiosity website, www.curiosityhull.co.uk, or follow and friend us on all the socials where we're Curiosity Hull on all the main feeds. We'll be back very soon with more quality answers to whatever question you'd like to ask. Ta for listening.